Production 60223, Fright Knight. This episode originally aired on NBC March 7th, 1986. That's Friday at 8 p.m. It was written by James Byrne, Sam Smith, and Leonard Kaufman, and directed by Gilbert Shilton. It originally was filmed January 24th through February 3rd of 1986. It was the 82nd episode to air and to be produced. The synopsis reads as follows. When reports of a phantom begin to circulate on the set of the movie Raging Sky and one of the stuntmen is injured, Michael takes over as the movie's new stuntman while investigating the rumors. All right, let's go ahead and dig in. So Fright Night is actually a really, really interesting episode because it takes place exclusively on the Universal Studios backlot. And because of that, we see this glimpse in time of the studio, as a lot of us remember. We've seen bits and pieces of the backlot throughout the entire 4 years of Knight Rider. But here we get to really see a whole bunch of it. And we also see so many different Easter eggs to previous Universal Studios productions, and even Easter eggs within the cast and crew of the fictional Raging Sky versus the cast and crew of Knight Rider. So this should be a fun one to dig in. So starting with this opening scene, again, on the backlot. And for those of you familiar with the 1984 Different Strokes episode, Hooray for Hollywood, this is the one where Arnold and Dudley sneak onto the studio lot and sneak into a filming of a fake episode of Knight Rider. That episode actually takes place right back here in this background. You recognize these arches of this like Mexican or Spanish set, and that whole episode takes place and was filmed right back here. And the other really nice thing is they didn't have to go to any great lengths to hide things in this episode. Things that, we might see in other episodes on accident, we see on purpose here. So in the background, we've got one of the mobile dressing rooms here, and then we also have one of the Universal Studios GMC Astros, the crew vehicles, aka the Comtron painted semi-trucks. If you look in the background here, this guy right here has a hat on that says Hasselhoff Groeneveld Race for Life Racing Team, which is neat. And of course, we have the return of Lenore Kasdorf. She plays Karen Bennett in this episode. We last saw her in the beginning of season 3 in Lost Night playing Lori Wainwright. We talked to Lenore many, many years ago, and she had some fond memories of working in this episode and in Lost Night. But here in a couple screenshots, we're going to share something really, really cool with you that she told us. So hang in there. And this is Matt McComb. He was Hasselhoff's stunt double for at least the last year of Knight Rider, and I believe he went on to be the stunt double for him in Baywatch as well. We've pointed him out in previous episodes when it's supposed to be Michael Knight or Hasselhoff, and you see it's actually Matt McComb. But in this episode, he actually plays the part of the stuntman in the episode, so they don't need to try and hide his face. So that's Matt McComb right there. And here, look in the background. There's a better look at that guy's hat. So in this fictional world of Knight Rider, there is apparently a Hasselhoff Groeneveld Race for Life racing team, which is kind of neat. This guy right here. So I forget. Someone told us that in this episode, a lot of the background people they were attempting to make lookalikes for a lot of the real Knight Rider cast and crew. And this guy right here is the lookalike for H. John Penner, the director of photography for pretty much the entire series. I think we get a better look at him here in a minute, but this is not H. John Penner, but it's a guy that's dressed up to look like him, which is kind of neat. All right, so here's Matt getting ready to film this scene here. This guy right here is Pat Somerset, in charge of sound. It's really hard to tell from some of these screenshots, but I actually think this is Pat Somerset. I don't think this is a stand-in for him. We've seen pictures of Pat before, and this looks just like him. So I think that's actually Pat Somerset, who you might recognize the name from the end credits of the show, but now you can put a face with that name. And also this guy right here, I don't know for sure, but but that sure looks like Joe Hasselhoff, David's father. Joe does make an appearance in the series finale Voodoo Night, but it almost looks like that's him right here as well. All right, Matt does this launch where he's supposedly injured. This is, by the way, the same barn that we saw back in Ring of Fire. You remember there's that scene where the Cajuns take Layla Callan hostage, and Michael calls for KITT, and they drive through a barn and come out the other side. That is this same barn here. If you look in the background right here, you can see a catapult that launched Matt into the air. So this catapult would have been flat. He stepped on it, and it was, I think, spring-loaded, and it popped him up in the air, and he landed right here on all this sand. And you can kind of see how there's a pad under this sand. If you look at the sand over here and over here, you can see it's not quite as fluffy. They obviously put a pad in right there. All right, so now we're back in the semi. Devin's reading his generically named Daily Gazette, and RC is sitting here working on a Quadrajet, a Rochester Quadrajet carburetor. This is probably a carburetor from one of the Knight Rider cars. Just, I guess. Of course, millions of vehicles had those Quadrajets on, but all the Knight Rider cars did too, so it's probably just a spare piece they had laying around from one of the Knight Rider cars. All right, so this is neat. So Michael is heading to McGee Studios, which is really Universal Studios, right? And we never see this poster close up in the background, but this is a Raging Sky poster, which is amazing to me that they would have gone to the effort to put it in there when all you see it is in this faraway shot. We'll see a closer version of that poster in the office here in a minute, but just a neat little Easter egg. The set decorators were really kind of on their game, I guess, for this scene. All right, so Michael's entering. Again, this is the guard, or was the guard shack for the entrance to Universal Studios. We see this scene whenever in KITT versus Carr, whenever Michael says, "Thanks for the bail, Devin. You know how KITT hates impound yards." You see KITT actually leaving, and he's going out this side of the gate. So here we are, him coming in. Same location. All right, and then we have Robert Englund, probably one of the most famous guest stars in Knight Rider outside of, Jason Bateman and Blair Underwood. We've got Robert Englund, and this would have been, when was Nightmare on Elm Street? Was that 1984? So this would have been like filmed a year and a half or so after Nightmare on Elm Street. So he was a pretty well-known star at this point. It's interesting to think, they try and hide who the Phantom is in this episode, but, clearly it's Robert Englund, right? All right, here's what I was going to tell you about. So Karen's office in this episode. This office is actually in the Universal Studios Black Tower. We've seen that Black Tower in the background of a number of episodes. We've seen it used in a few episodes, namely Kit the Cat is the one that comes to mind right now. But Lenore told us the office we used to film that scene was in the Black Universal Studios Tower. It was the office of Knight Rider's executive producer. So that would have been Robert Foster. So this was Robert Foster's office. And if you look in the background, you see all of these binders here. For those of you who watched my commentary on A Night of a Thousand Devils, you saw we had Gino Grimaldi's binder, because he directed that episode, had the script in it and all his notes and everything. It's this exact same binder. It says like MCA Universal, and then there's a sleeve in it with a little white card. So heck, it might even be one of these ones. I don't know. But this was Robert Foster's office. Lenore also said the day they filmed this, they took a break to film it to watch the Challenger shuttle being launched and sat in horror as it blew apart. And then they had to continue shooting the scene, and they were in total shock. It was awful. That all happened the day this was being filmed. All right, and here's that close-up of the Raging Sky poster that we mentioned, we saw hanging on the outside of the studio. And I was trying to look at some of these names to see if there was any Easter eggs in there. I didn't notice any, but take a look at those names. Maybe one of you guys out there will recognize the in-joke with these people. Are these real people, or are these just made-up names? I don't know. All right, so now we've got Michael running away from the robot motorcycle, and this is just neat because you can see the actual stages at Universal. So this was stage 4, obviously. And note where Michael's running. So if you look on the far left, you see, what is that, a Mercedes, an antique or vintage Mercedes there, and there's a Volkswagen behind it, and you see this building. So he's supposedly running away from this motorcycle, but then in the next scene, the motorcycle's right there, and it's actually coming from the direction that Hasselhoff's running towards. There's that building. Stage 4 is over here to the right, but they pan over and you can see KITT, but there's that Mercedes, there's a Volkswagen. Note that this is stage 1. Stage 1 is where all of the Knight Rider magic happened. That's where Devon's set was located. That's where the semi set was located, the staircase set, all in that building. Unfortunately, stage 1 was demolished a number of years ago, so it no longer exists. And just for a good measure, here's a map, a vintage map of Universal Studios. So you can see stage 1 was right here, and there's stage 4 right across the alleyway that we were talking about. Stage 28, which is where the Phantom is back here, right? So let's look at where, so stage 1, stage 4 right there. Let's look at what it looks like now. So right here, I think, let me go back to my map here. Stage 1 would have been right where that, so this would have been stage 1 right here, right where this building is. This was or is stage 4. I don't really know if that stage is still there. This says stage 7 and 8. I'm wondering if they renamed them at some point, but stage 1 at Universal no longer there. There's this new building there instead. This is the gate that the episode, when the episode starts and you see KITT coming through the gate, is this one right here. All right, so back to this scene. This is the left-hand blind drive car that's used throughout the rest of the scene till the commercial break. And if you look at this close-up, Hasselhoff on the ground, if in the background here you see that tab. We've talked about this tab before. That's left over from Season 2's custom kit whenever they had the side pipes on the car. Just a couple of the Knight Rider cars got that, and the left-hand blind drive car is one of them. So there's your proof right there that the left-hand blind drive car, the actual Trans Am, was the same Trans Am at the end of the series that it was way back in Season 2. They never switched cars. If they did, this tab would not be there. For inquiring minds, there were 6 Trans Ams used in the filming of this episode. Obviously, the left-hand blind drive car here, the Season 3 and 4 hero car, the hardtop stunt car, same one that we've had since Whitebird in Season 1. The general purpose T-top stunt car around since the beginning of Season 3. We've got the Season 4 insert car. And the car I'm most partial to, the other hardtop stunt car, the one that's currently in our collection right here. So those are your 6 Trans Ams used in this episode. All right, so now we have Michael returning to the back lot. Well, I guess he never left the back lot. Another one of the GMC Astros used by the production right there. These are all Knight Rider director's chairs, I guess you could say, but a lot of the back pieces have been taped over because they normally would say Knight Rider on them, but they've been taped over with other graphics there. And you see Michael driving in, and then this guy is like walking in front of the car, giving him, you know, the evil stare. Michael keeps driving, and then this guy's like, what? Like he almost got hit. Like this guy's crazy. And I don't know if that was planned or whatnot, but I thought that was kind of interesting. Alrighty, so we've got KITT coming around the bend. This is, of course, Courthouse Square at Universal Studios. This is the Barrister, the George Barris built Barrister. He made a handful of these cars. We saw the Barrister as Carrie Haver's car, the one that got stolen in Custom Kit. Here we see it again, and then we pan out and we get a really good look at the courthouse from Back to the Future. And in fact, this whole area is pretty much set up the way it was during Back to the Future. You can see the movie theater back there, and I think we'll see a close-up of the marquee here in a little bit, but I think the movies on there are the same ones that were on there during the filming of Back to the Future. This, of course, was, let's see, when did they film the first Back to the Future? Wasn't it late 1984? So this would have been like filmed a little over a year after the first Back to the Future, and they wouldn't have been prepping for Back to the Future 2 yet, which I think was 1989. I also like this guy right here hauling a TV for some reason. All right, so Michael arrives at the infamous Stage 28, which apparently is the Universal Studios props department. At least that's what it looks like. So this is probably the same building that we saw back in Halloween night when Michael was walking through that. We see a Cylon here from Battlestar Galactica. And of course, Frankenstein right there. And then probably what Stage 28 was most famous for, the Phantom of the Opera set. I think it was Hollywood's oldest standing set. And this set lived up until just a few years ago when they demolished Stage 28. And I remember there was this big fuss that Universal Studios was going to demolish this set and they were not going to save the Phantom set. And there were all these campaigns to save it. But it looks like it was all for naught because from everything that I've read and researched, this set unfortunately was destroyed, was scrapped whenever they destroyed Stage 28. If I'm wrong or if any of you know any different, let me know. But based on what I read, it sounds like Universal destroyed this set, which was, I think, dated from like the 1920s. So again, such a shame that this couldn't be preserved somewhere. All right, so Michael, again, driving through the back lot. We look right here and we can see a Casper camera car. This is the same vehicle that towed KITT whenever they were filming the inside of the car. You never really saw this. But actually, I shouldn't say you never saw it. Back in Let It Be Me, when they were filming the music video and Michael and Stevie were in that yellow Volkswagen thing, you can see the Casper camera car there. But yeah, they did all of the insert shots for Knight Rider. All right, so this is really cool. This is, as I said, one of our 2 Trans Ams that we own. This is the hardtop car. This is the same one that would go on to be on the display at Universal Studios Hollywood. It was sent to Australia for the World Expo. More recently, we had it on Jay Leno's garage. That is this car. Whenever we got the car, it still had this window tint on it, albeit very purple and bubbled because it was so old. Every once in a while, I think maybe we should put the window tint back on because that's the way it was the last time it was used on the show. What do you guys think? Should we retint this original KITT's windows to match the way it was when it left the set, or should we just leave it alone? And it's really neat here because we see Hasselhoff actually getting out of this car. It was mainly a second unit car, but here Hasselhoff actually used this car. And the whole reason he used this car in the scene was because the windows were already tinted from a previous episode and they needed a tinted window kit. This one was tinted, so that's why they used it here. All right, so next up we've got these 2 cowboys playing cards. Obviously this is Hank Worden and Pat Buttram, both in tons of westerns, comedic actors. Neat to see them here. Pat would go on to play a small part in Back to the Future Part 3, also produced by Universal Studios. All right, so we're getting ready to enter the part of the episode that is just filled with all kinds of interesting Easter eggs and fun stuff. So Michael is walking in along with Liz Preston here, Leanne Hurley, into the stage. We've got another appearance of Hal Frizzle right here, one of the Knight Rider crew members. Always seems to make cameo appearances. He's a security guard. And we come in here and we see Liz sitting at her desk. It looks like a Knight Rider call sheet is taped to the mirror, which is pretty neat. So Jeremy Swan was the makeup guy for Knight Rider. And in this episode, we've got this guy doing the makeup. I don't know, because I don't think I've ever seen a picture of Jeremy Swan. I don't know if this actually is Jeremy Swan or if it's a guy that's meant to be like Jeremy Swan. I don't know. Those of you guys who are watching this who were, there at the time, what do you know about this? Is that actually Jeremy? Is it just a lookalike, or is it neither? All right, so if you look in the background here, you see all of this wood structure, right? We see this I love Carlos, it looks like is what it says. This is actually the outside of the semi set. And we'll see it even more detail here in a minute, but this is the only known visual evidence we've ever found of the outside of the semi set. It's it's pretty neat because, you know, you always see the inside, but you always wonder, well, how was it set up on the outside? This is how it was set up. There's going to be more of this here in a minute. All right, so here's another better look at the guy that's playing H. John Penner, the director of photography. So you see him back here. Notice his glasses, his hat. He's got this thing around his neck, his white shirt. Let me show you a picture of the real H. John Penner now. All right, so this is from the set of Night of the Juggernaut from the beginning of season 4. This is Gino Grimaldi on the left. This is the real H. John Penner. All right, so you can see here, you know, they put a hat on him. They gave him a mustache. I mean, not, you know, this picture. This is the actual one, right? But the same white shirt, the lanyard around his neck, the glasses. So then we go back to the photo, and you can see how they mimicked kind of what H. John Penner really looked like. I think they did a nice job. All right, and from this aerial view, so this is that makeup trailer, and in the back here, this was the semi-set right here. This is the outside wall of the semi-set, and each one of these pieces could be removed so they could film, you know, from different angles. And obviously this box is in our way. This is the light, because there's Liz down below. But this whole set right back here, and you notice there's a guy up on the roof of the semi-set currently. This is where all the cables were for the lighting. Whenever you saw the chemical analyzer dropping down from the ceiling, there was a guy up here pushing and pulling it out, going up and down. And here, this gives you some perspective. So Hasselhoff right now is in that staircase set, the one we've talked about a number of times. He's walking into the staircase set. In the background here, this is the semi set right here. And let's go ahead one scene. So there you go. There it is again. You can see there's some scaffolding above it. But take a look at this. If you zoom in really close, you can see one of the track lights right there for the semi in the garage portion of it. So KITT drove in this back portion right here and parked in here, and then the office was further up. So there you go. Now you finally know what the semi set actually looked like sitting on stage 1 at Universal. So Michael is running from the staircase set over to Liz, and from the other point of view, now you can see the actual staircase set. There's the staircase, obviously. There's another opening right here. This set, again, has been used a ton of times in the show, starting in season 3. It was used as the foundation in Halloween Night, Boyd LaSalle's Command Center, Night in Disgrace. Saw it in Night Flight to Freedom. We'll see it again in Voodoo Night. Just really used a ton, but this is the only time you actually see the set as it was constructed. All right, so Michael's running to push Liz out of the way. Obviously, that's not Liz, but a stunt woman you can see right there. And if we go ahead one more, you get this point of view. First of all, you got all these people in the background just watching this happen. Here on the right-hand side, that's the semi-set. On the left-hand side here, you get a view. This is Devin's office. And if you look here, you'll see this is the archway that we see in Devin's office with the backdrop right here. Here we go, going all the way back to Slam and Sammy. You know this archway right here? And with the fake wall behind it? That's what you're looking at right here. That's the archway. There's the wall behind it. And that vase would have been, you know, planted right about there. Pretty neat to see kind of how all this stuff was put together. And this is the staircase set right here. So you have Devin's office right here, and then right beside it was the staircase set. And for good measure, one more shot of the outside wall of the semi set right there. All right, so now we're back at the Black Tower. This is what we talked about earlier in the episode. Executive producer Robert Foster, his office, along with the other producers, they all had offices in this Black Tower at Universal. Tower's still there today, and we see this shot of Michael going in. This is actually reused footage from Season 2's Kit the Cat. You'll notice actually Michael has longer hair, and it's more looking like how he did in 1983 than how he does currently in 1986. All right, so they're walking back into Robert Foster's office here, and you see a pile of scripts here, and you see more of those binders we talked about with all of the different episodes there. Really, really neat. All right, so we're back to Buck and Slim playing cards here. In the background, we see this Camaro. Now, some of you have said that this is one of the Simon and Simon Camaros, which I think was a Universal production and very well could be. Looking at screenshots, it does look like it could be a Simon and Simon Camaro, so maybe that's what that is. All right, so we got Michael and Kit backing out. Another appearance by one of the Universal Studios Comtron-style trailers or tractors right there. So fast forward a little bit, Michael goes back to stage 28. The Phantom sets a trap for him. He's hanging by a rope. He summons Kit. This is the left-hand blind drive car once again. You get a great view of the skid plate underneath, the tow bar receivers there, and then it cuts to some stock footage here. This is reused from Season 3's The Ice Bandits whenever Kit crashes through the side of the monastery. And then it cuts to Kit crashing through this wall, which is now from Deadly Nightshade in Season 4. And Kit arrives just in time. Michael falls. If you watch this scene, you can tell that this stunt guy actually does not fall in the car. He falls to the left of the car. So great job, Kit. All right, so then we have this short little scene with Peter Paris, RC, helping out this girl who can't get her go-kart started, or golf cart. This is Jerry Paris, Peter's wife at the time. I believe they're divorced now. They got divorced just a couple years ago. But Peter told us at the time, I think the episode came up a few minutes short from editing. Burton Armus, one of the producers, knew that my wife had done some acting, and the scene was written specifically for her/us. All right, so then you have this scene. Michael's getting ready, and the guy in the middle in the white shirt puts the jacket on, and Michael says, "Thanks, Barry." And another situation where this isn't confirmed 100%, but one of the costume guys on Knight Rider was Barry Downing. So I'm wondering if this is actually Barry or a look-alike Barry. Again, don't know. We don't have any photos of the real Barry Downing to confirm, but very well could be. All right, so this is really neat. So we've got fake John Penner right here. We've got the script supervisor. I'm not sure who she, if this person is mimicking anyone else. But then we have who I think is the real Pat Somerset over here on sound. And then we change this angle, and you see from behind. And take a look at this. On Pat's chair, it says Sound Doc. And notice how there's a piece of tape here. That's because underneath this tape it says Knight Rider. And they covered it up, obviously, to shoot this episode. We have a chair back that was Alan Payne's, and it's the exact same style as this, which is really neat. What does this say? Does it say anything of interest? It's too hard to read. It doesn't say Knight Rider anywhere. February 3rd of 86. And actually, February 3rd of 86 was the last filming day for this episode. So maybe that was a real slate marker. And we got another appearance by Knight Rider stuntman Al Jones here. We've talked about Al a number of times. He was just in Night Flight to Freedom. He drove Goliath a lot. He drove the Semi a lot. He was in the Ice Bandits. His face pops up all over Knight Rider. All right, so now we have this cool scene, which is supposed to be Hasselhoff, but it's Matt McComb, who is being a stunt double for Hasselhoff, who in and of himself was replacing Matt McComb at the beginning of the episode because he was injured story-wise. So there you go. There's a little meta parallel universe thing going on there. And Kit comes to the rescue. As you can see, once again, another GMC Astro Universal Studios semi-trailer. Kit pulls up. We've got the hardtop stunt car all of a sudden. Off to the left here is one of the Universal Studios vans. This is one we saw way back in the pilot. And just like we mentioned earlier regarding that little tab on the blind drive car, here it is on the hardtop stunt car. Again, confirmation that this car was the same Trans Am since way back in season 2. It wasn't, crashed and replaced with another Trans Am. And take a look at this. Not that this is that important, but there's a brace right here I noticed, and that's one of the jacking points of the car. My guess is that they pretty much ruined the frame in that place, and they welded this on as a solid jacking point for the car. Okay, so chase ensues. They're back in Courthouse Square here, and I think if you look in the background, isn't this the same restaurant from Back to the Future? It says ice cream, malts, sundaes, something like that. I think this is the same cafe that we saw in Back to the Future, probably still dressed like it was in Back to the Future a little bit. And then we move forward. Kit's coming around the bend. You can see the movie theater right here that the DeLorean crashed into, and Cattle Queen of Montana, starring Ronald Reagan and Barbara Sedgwick. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's what it was in Back to the Future, right? Because there was the whole joke about Ronald Reagan, the actor, and I remember that being on the marquee. So kind of neat to see. Oh, and you got the E.T. poster right there, another Easter egg right there. So neat to see that even a year or so after they finished filming, that the movie theater was still exactly as it was in Back to the Future. Also something to note, the damage to this SUV. If you look here, see how the bumper's all crunched? And if you look real closely, you can see the taillight's gone on the passenger side, the cap's a little, this whole corner's wonky. Well, shortly after this scene, we see this scene where the SUV hits this car, and that's where the damage you see here actually occurs a few seconds later in the episode. So those were obviously filmed out of order. And see, you move forward even further, and you see the SUV going into the the ice tunnel or whatever that's called. And there's no damage to the SUV again. So again, little movie magic. And there's Al Jones once again, right there, just waiting for KITT to come out. And KITT does emerge, comes around the bend, and there's one of the Universal Studios trams just sitting there. Yeah, we've got another Easter egg here on the Universal Studios lot. There's Amity Island from Jaws, and this whole scene is from the Jaws experience they had at the time. It might still be there. I'm not sure. Is any of this still there, or has this all been redeveloped along with the rest of the studio? All right, so Michael chases after the Phantom. We look here. We've got a nice tow bar on the Dodge Ram Charger right there. Looks very similar to the tow bar receivers that were on KITT earlier in the series. And of course, Jaws has to make an appearance too, right? All right, and then we have this whole crew here. We have RC, and then there's Hal Frizzle once again making another appearance. And actually, he's the one that apprehends Freddy Krueger right there. There's Hal again, taking him off. Goodbye. All right, you're not going to be able to notice this unless you actually go and watch the episode, but they're standing on this bridge right here. When KITT hits the bridge, it shakes the entire bridge, and the camera shakes. I don't know if you can see that. The whole camera shakes from the vibration of the car going on the bridge. So you have to check that out. All right, and then we are back here at the end of the episode. There's the Simon Camaro. There's Hal Frizzle. There's the Universal Studios truck. All is well. And that concludes this episode. So pretty neat. Lots of interesting Easter eggs and tidbits in this one. This is a pretty decent episode. I like this one. All right, guys, we are rapidly approaching the end of our episode commentary series. We only have 2 left. 2. Then it's over. Then I'll take a vacation. But next up, Night of the Rising Sun. Not the greatest episode, but not as bad as the one after it, Voodoo Night. So, hope you'll join us for these last episode commentaries ever. Should I say ever? I can't say ever. Last episode commentaries for now. As always, thanks so much for watching. We'll catch you next time.